Giovanino.
Charlie, how are you?
All right, how are you?
I want you to meet two beautiful young ladies here. This is my good friend Charlie. This is my good friend Tony. He owns the joint. This is, what's your name again, Don?
Sarah.
Sarah Klein, right? Sarah Klein. This is Tony. And this is what? What's your name?
Heather.
Heather Weintraub, right?
Before Martin Scorsese became synonymous with mob masterpieces, before he redefined cinematic grit and elevated street-level storytelling into an art form, he nearly lost his shot at making movies entirely. And the wild part? It all might have come crashing down, if not for some strategic mob money and a quiet intervention from none other than Francis Ford Coppola himself. That's right. Before Mean Streets hit the screen in 1973 and launched Scorsese and Robert De Niro into orbit, it was on the brink of being just another forgotten indie dream. But let's rewind. Mean Streets wasn't just Scorsese's third film. It was his first deeply personal one. After the studio assignment Boxcar Bertha, a low-budget exploitation flick for Roger Corman, Scorsese was told point blank by his mentor John Cassavetes, "You just spent a year of your life making a piece of shit." Ouch. But it worked. Scorsese knew it was time to dig deep, not into genre, but into memory. Into the Catholic guilt, the tribal codes, the violence and contradictions he witnessed growing up in Little Italy. The story centers on Charlie, a young man trying to balance his Catholic conscience with his loyalty to street life. He's played with internalized conflict by Harvey Keitel, a frequent Scorsese collaborator even at this early stage. Charlie works collections for his mafioso uncle, but is torn up over the explosive recklessness of his best friend, Johnny Boy. That role, of course, went to Robert De Niro, a magnetic live wire of chaos who hijacks every scene with that boyish smile and ticking time bomb energy. De Niro had his pick of the four lead roles, but Scorsese convinced him to go for Johnny. Wise move. Behind the camera, Scorsese was breaking all the rules because, frankly, he couldn't afford to follow them. With a shoestring budget of roughly $500,000, half of which went to music licensing alone, he leaned hard into guerrilla filmmaking. They strapped a camera to Keitel to simulate drunkenness, used handheld shots not for style, but out of necessity, undercranked footage to make things feel woozy. What looked like stylistic brilliance was often just desperate ingenuity. The film's original title was Season of the Witch, named after the Donovan song Scorsese wanted for the soundtrack. But his friend Jay Cox nudged him toward Mean Streets, quoting Raymond Chandler, "Down these mean streets a man must go." Scorsese initially thought it was pretentious. Then he realized it was perfect. Now here's where things got dicey. Scorsese tried shopping the film around but ran into a roadblock. Roger Corman offered financing, with one massive catch. He'd only fund the film if Scorsese agreed to cast all black actors. Corman was pivoting toward the blaxploitation market, and while Scorsese admired the movement, this film was too personal, too rooted in Italian-American culture. So he walked. That decision nearly killed the film. Enter Jonathan Taplin, then tour manager for the band, who decided to produce the movie. Not because of a script, but because of a conversation by a swimming pool. Scorsese, ever the New Yorker, wore a long leather trench coat in the California sun, refusing to take it off during their entire meeting. Taplin was intrigued by the intensity. He raised $300,000, including a large chunk from concert revenue, some of which came from less than legitimate mob-tied investors. Here's where Francis Ford Coppola enters the picture. Around this time, Coppola was the reigning king of gangster cinema thanks to The Godfather. According to industry whispers, and confirmed in several retrospectives, Coppola pulled some strings to keep heat off Scorsese during production. Mob associates had concerns about the film's content and financing, but Coppola vouched for Marty, essentially telling the right people to back off. Without that, Mean Streets might have ended before it began. Filming was gritty and chaotic, often taking place in real bars, alleyways, and apartments in Manhattan. The baptism scene was filmed in St. Patrick's Old Cathedral, the same one used in The Godfather and The Godfather Part 3. There's a scene where Charlie burns his hand over a candle flame at the church altar, symbolizing his desire to do penance outside the confines of confession. That motif would later echo in Taxi Driver, with De Niro's Travis holding his fist over a gas flame. And yes, that famous voiceover at the start, "You don't make up for your sins in church, you do it in the streets," is not Keitel. It's Scorsese himself, drawing a line between action and thought, penance and performance. The film also carried a surprising amount of nudity for its time, especially the scene involving Amy Robinson as Teresa. Scorsese cleared the set almost entirely to keep her comfortable, but he admitted later that the crew was nervous and rushed the scene. Most of that footage was unusable. It was a lesson in pacing, intimacy, and preparation, something Scorsese would master in later films. When Mean Streets premiered at the New York Film Festival, it was a sensation. Roger Ebert immediately called it one of the best American films of the decade. It was raw, unpolished, but brimming with life. It didn't just show street life, it understood it. And the profanity? Oh yeah, 52 F-bombs, the most in film history at the time. 2 months later, The Last Detail broke that record, but the badge of honor stuck. That rawness became a Scorsese signature. The cultural legacy of Mean Streets is almost impossible to overstate. It kicked off one of the most significant actor-director collaborations in film history between Scorsese and De Niro. It redefined how urban crime stories could be told, and it introduced the world to a cinematic voice that would shape the next 5 decades. So when you hear the story that Francis Ford Coppola may have had to whisper into the right mobster's ear to let this film live, it fits. Because Mean Streets wasn't just a movie. It was a mission, a confession, a street-level sermon from a director who refused to play it safe. Now it's time to hear from you. What's your favorite Scorsese-De Niro collaboration? And do you think Mean Streets still holds up after all these years?